Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this edition of Primetime Newscast in the English language on Canal International. I'm called Morinzi at Top Stories. After a period of recess, bomb explosions seem to have resumed in Bamenda, Northwest region, with the latest being this morning at the Brasseries junction that injured at least 2 police officers, among others. And some 11 students are said to have been injured by an explosive device at the University of Boya. Today, the incident occurred at Amphitheater 600. The Vice Chancellor says the improvised explosive device came from outside, and the physical and material preparation ahead of the start of the third and last ordinary session of Parliament for the 2021 legislative year is at its top. And small and medium-sized enterprises in Cameroon have urged government to facilitate access to finances and review suffocating taxes that kills investments. Those were major stories. Details right ahead. Once more, after a period of recess, bomb explosions seem to have returned in Bamenda, Northwest region of Cameroon, with the latest being this morning at the Brasseries junction. We left at least 2 police officers injured, among many others. The details in the following story.
At least 5 people have been wounded after a locally made bomb exploded in Bamenda just before midday this Wednesday. Amongst the 5 victims are a woman under whose roadside telephone call box the explosive device was planted. 2 police officers of the regular checkpoint at Brasseries Junction, probably the main targets of the attack, also sustained light injuries. Other light casualties include some passing cars and a few of their passengers. It is not the first time this same police checkpoint has been targeted along this busy road that links 2 popular areas of Bamenda, the hospital roundabout and Tarikun headquarters, but also a road access frequently used by the military to and from the B-Camp and the Air Force base at the Bamenda airport. Just as a passing military convoy arrived at the scene few minutes after the bomb blast. Though no one has claimed responsibility, separatist fighters, as usual, are suspected to have planted the improvised explosive device.
Some 11 students are said to have been injured by an explosive device at the University of Boya. Today, the incident occurred at Amphi 600. The Vice Chancellor, Professor Horace Amanga, the perpetrator threw the improvised explosive device from outside. The Vice Chancellor was speaking after visiting injured students at the Solidarity Clinic, Moliko Boya. The incident has left inhabitants in panic and the fear of the unknown looms. Today's incident is coming this after an improvised explosive device went off in a taxi in a checkpoint neighborhood in Moliko. That was some days back. We'll certainly come back to that in a subsequent edition of Newscast. The physical and material preparations ahead of the start of the third and last ordinary session of Parliament for the 2021 legislative year is at its top. The parliamentarians we met this day, like the structures and services are visited, are ready for the grand event. As we end the following story with Beatrice Ngamu.
Parliamentarians are in the capital city Yaoundé ahead of the third and last session for this legislative year. Signed of commitment.
I arrived here yesterday in the evening to attend the session tomorrow. I can assure you that I'm very committed to do my job, the job of representing and serving the people.
As political leaders and the people's representatives, the interests of these people their priority.
I hope we will have a useful session for the people, a useful session in political, economical, and social aspects. I hope all the MPs will preserve their energy to better serve and to adopt the laws that we will examine for the interests of the people of Cameroon.
The stakes this time around is on the scrutiny and adoption of the state budget, a big and challenging task for the parliamentarians.
So the stakes are very high. It is a time we try to examine the whole life of Cameroon, what will take place in the 2022. So it is not just something like we vote a budget. No, it is purely projecting. You try to project the custom, the taxes, and all those type of things to see at what level we will land.
His projection, an increase in the budget.
The private sector has picked up because there were certain places we locked because of COVID-19. So definitely, we are expecting that there will be a slight increase in the budget this year.
Material like logistic preparations ahead of tomorrow's opening session at concluding points. At the Yaoundé Conference Center, the workers and officials of the National Assembly finishing touches. The chairs checked and put in order, so too Bristol with name tag of the MPs. Picture different here at the Senate Hall, as painting is still being done. Demand by media for coverage of this session is at 130. From all indications, things will take shape before tomorrow 11 a.m. for the opening of the last ordinary session of National Assembly and 4 p.m. for the Senate. This in strict respect of the COVID-19 barrier measures. COVID tests like administering of vaccines also available.
Small and medium-sized enterprises in Cameroon have urged government to facilitate access to financing and review suffocating taxes that kills investment. The call was made this November 10, 2021 at the cartel at Employers Cartel GCAM during the official launching of the Global Entrepreneurial Week that was chaired by the Minister of Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises. Gladys Amodibang has the rest of that story.
Young people with great initiatives and projects, but who lack support to kick off or sustain their activities. This third edition of the Global Entrepreneurship Week in Cameroon on the theme Capitalizing on Entrepreneurial Opportunities in Times of Crisis is an occasion for these young people and management of small and medium-sized enterprises to have real exchange on their experiences and difficulties.
People, I would tell them that they have first to build a solid vision. They have to build a vision and to structure their project. Everything will not be built in one day. They have to be patient. They have to be resilient and to believe in themselves.
To expose our products is a little bit difficult with the supermarkets because in all the other market areas, market is very okay, they are satisfied. But with the supermarkets, they are giving us conditions that are not favorable to us because we are not capitalists, they are capitalists.
The president of Cameroon's Employers Cartel GCAM, Celestin Tawamba, emphasized that with the health crisis that badly affected small and medium-sized enterprises and importers, there is need to promote industries to satisfy local demand. He told the Minister of Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises, Achille Basilican III, that to improve the business environment, there must be a paradigm shift in local taxes, access to financing, and an improvement on support infrastructures for small and medium-sized enterprises.
The theme of this third edition is precisely to explore how can we as a government continue to support enterprises. So in terms of promoting Made in Cameroon, in terms of supporting our economic patriotism, everything is being implemented so far.
A memorandum of understanding was signed between the Ministry of Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises and two non-governmental organizations to permit them raise more awareness on the entrepreneurial culture.
And we now talk culture. The 2021 edition of the Ngondo Festival has been launched today in Douala. The launching ceremony at the Mukanga Palace of King Akwa saw the attendance of custodians of tradition of the Sawa people. Activities to mark the cultural event was unveiled to pressmen today, as we hear the following story with Saleh Sherifa.
As every other tradition and culture, the Sawa people perform their tradition and culture through the Ngondo Festival every year. The Ngondo Festival, which is celebrated in the littoral region by the River Wuri, links the Sawa people and their ancestors. At this press conference at the Mukanda Palace of King Akwa, this 10th November, it was announced that the Ngondo Festival of this 2021 will be dedicated to Francis Bebe from Nyambe and the ancestors through a special ceremony in their honor. They preserve their culture and transmit them to young people because it conveys and preserves certain knowledge, as it is a link between the past, present and the future.
Before we didn't have that particularity, then you would have just seen only men. So they tried to show us what was done in the yesteryears so that we can be able to see exactly what used to happen at that time. It's not because women are excluded into anything, because the women are there. The women are inside the boat going to see the ancestors and bringing the messages to the population.
The significant festival this year will be celebrated on the theme Tombele, which means transmission. As they say, it is a challenge imposed on the ascending generations who have as duty to transmit values to the youth.
And we now talk sports. The Magic Construction Enterprise has reaffirmed November 30 as a deadline to deliver the Olympic Sports Complex, visiting the site this Wednesday, November 10. The Minister of Sports and Physical Education said much has been done and the soccer arena is gradually ready to host the African Cup of Nations come January. More in the following story with Haisencha.
A progressive new look of the outer view of the main stadium of the Olympic Sports Complex. Pangolin kits now visible. The Annex A stadium completely transformed. The athletic track, modernized, dressing rooms, ready to welcome players. Same process undergoing at the Annex B arena. Some parts of the football facility already breathing the colors of the upcoming Total Energies African Cup of Nations. In his traditional walking visit this Wednesday, November 10th, the Minister of Sports and Physical Education, Narcisse Mwole Kombi, took stock of some strategic areas of the complex, like the entrance to the VIP tribune, access way to the regular public spaces, the parking slots for over 4,050 cars, and the entire outer sphere. Satisfied with the considerable level of work progress.
Happy indeed, and I would like to assure you that Olembe Complex Stadium is going to host the opening ceremony of AFCON on January 9th of the next year.
Final touches in full gear at the 60,000 main stadium. Though some key elements, like the marking of the green turf and the implantation of the poles, yet to be done. Same with the giant screens, still to be erected. But McGill Construction Enterprise reaffirms of the November 30th delivery. We are working all round with the one and unique objective of complete delivery of the sports complex on November 30th as agreed. He added that the labor force has been reinforced at the site, work unfolding 24 on 24 hours, all the 7 days of the week, in all the facets of the sports jewel, to meet the expectations of the Cameroonian population.
Report by Hysen Cha brings us the end of this edition of Newscast in the English language on Canal the International. Thanks so much for watching. We have news in the French language at exactly 19:50. We'll arrange this Lenkanga, but coming up next is the brief with Boban Gomna. As for me, I'll be back tomorrow, same time. Good night.